Greg Charyna with us back again today from Home Instead Senior Care. And we're talking about downsizing, and that's not all we're talking about. I've got an interesting document here called An Action Plan for Successful Aging. And on the cover is something that says the 40-70 rule. I don't need to show it to the camera, but the 40-70 rule, what is that referring to?
Basically, the research that said when we hit our 40s, give or take,
okay,
and our parents are in their 70s, okay, that's actually a very good time to start these conversations around downsizing, affording, whatever kind of life we'd like to have in the future.
That's a so important a conversation to have, because sooner than later, you're going to find that time has caught up to all of us, and these are decisions that you don't want to have to make in the short term. You want to have the chance to make them over a course of some reasonable amount of time.
Yes, be proactive, plant those seeds, make it be an ongoing, open-handed, open-hearted conversation, and not made during a crisis.
Well, exactly, and we're talking about, when you say downsizing is one thing, because obviously we're talking about someone who's spent a lifetime in quite possibly the same home, accumulating things, stuff, memories. What is the best way to start initiating that conversation if you think that maybe it's time for mom or dad or both of them to move into, let's say, a senior's, not necessarily a care home, but a senior's high-rise or something like that, or a condo situation?
I think deal with the emotion of, you've lived here a long time.
Yeah.
If you ever had to move, what would you miss? Would you miss the neighborhood? Would you miss, the stuff that you've accumulated over the years? What is it? And let the person talk.
Okay.
That's probably a good place to start. Sure. And then you move on to other options.
And then speaking of other options, there are things to do. We talk about, we certainly did commercials, but, people are home rich but cash poor. They have a lot of equity in their home. And there are some financial considerations you can make, or certain options you have if you want to get some liquid capital going.
Well, certainly, if people make the decision that they want to stay in their home, in their health, it all works, and the family's in agreement. But the difference between living and having good quality of life is maybe $1,000 a month or something, just to be able to manage things. A reverse mortgage is a good option for some folks at a certain age and stage, and many of us don't really know about those things. And so we thought, boy, let's create an opportunity to talk about that and give some good information.
And what about the whole notion of, you think you're doing fine, but maybe there is a place for some extra help?
Yeah. Well, isn't that human nature? The feeling like, we're not bad enough.
Sure.
To
exactly.
Need to think about.
We haven't fallen off the rails completely.
Or my parents say they're fine, so they guess they must be fine. And we as adult children it's easier to defer.
It sure is.
And it's harder to have that knee-to-knee, eyeball-to-eyeball conversation to say, things are changing, and we need to really look at what our options are.
I know, and you and I have talked about this before in a sort of microcosm with regard to driving privileges and things like that. So now, before we run out of time here, you've got a seminar coming up next week.
Yeah, Jennifer Alm, a realtor who specializes in working with families, aging adults, and the downsizing proposition. Deb Murdoch, who's a mortgage broker who specializes in reverse mortgages and stuff, and myself. They approached me to say, let's create an evening, a 1-hour sort of presentation to give good information to folks, to get those, encourage those conversations to start.
And so these aren't just for older adults, it's for the kids as well. When is it happening and where?
June 14th, so next Wednesday. 6:30 we'll gather, 7 o'clock we'll start. We'll be done by 8-ish. It's at the Cliff Wright Library on the Kircher.
Super good. All right, always a pleasure. Thanks so much, Greg. We'll be talking to you soon. And we'd also like to remind you about a couple of other things going on in and around our neighborhood.